All right, so in here they have a simulator. So if you're regional or in the Kansas City area, come up to Imperial Golf and you can play on their simulator. Glad I was able to meet these guys. All right, welcome back to the channel, Firefighter Golf. I'm here today at Imperial Golf here in Kansas City, Parkville
Commons. Yep.
Parkville Commons.
Yep.
I'm here with John Snyder. We met through social media. We also did a podcast. I did with Billy Daniels on Gripping Golf Podcast. So go watch his YouTube channel and his Instagram. I'll give that link below. You had a podcast.
Yep.
I had a podcast on the same day.
Yep.
I also was introduced to you guys early on in this whole mission with Drew Garner. He's a coach that I coach with the high school kids. And he said, hey, you got to follow you guys because you host a tournament for military and first responders.
Yes.
So first off, John, talk about Imperial Golf and when you guys started it, you and JT.
So Imperial Golf has been here around 6.5 years now or so. We've gone through some changes. We started out actually as Golf Academy Northlands, and it was kind of a startup business.
Okay.
That grew out of a previous company that we had been working for. And then it kind of just grew and grew, and in 2017 officially we remodeled this whole space as you see it now and became Imperial Golf.
Yeah. Nice.
So we put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into it. For 3 weeks we closed down, had no income, it was a bit scary, and threw a ton of money into custom building this whole facility. We wanted to be detailed, so I mean we went to the lengths of running the wiring and hiding everything and concealing everything so that it was a safe place. JT and I have known each other for a long time. He's top notch, phenomenal instructor. I love having him here, and he's very talented. So yeah, we've been 6.5 years now. We're running strong. We're considering the addition of another instructor soon, so that'll be a pretty cool additive. Might get a little too noisy in here, but I
think that the sound over there is what golfers love to hear anyway.
That's true.
So.
Yeah, guy hitting on the simulator in the back. Yeah.
Yeah.
So and then like the tournament too. The tournament we've been doing for 3 years. Yeah.
It's to raise money for what for them? Is it for PTS issues or just overall?
Primarily
problems that they
PTS.
have?
I mean, to get a little more detailed, it's actually put on for a group called Patriot Outreach.
Okay.
Which is a nonprofit 501c3.
Kind of like what I'm going to start up with my first responder foundation.
And there aren't enough of those, by the way.
No.
So the private support for people in these areas that are struggling with these things always needs to be greater. It's always going to need to be greater. So, we kind of believe that there's never enough there for people that need help in that realm. So
okay, I agree.
I don't necessarily know a ton about it personally, but JT does, as you know. He had some personal stories, and but I know the importance of helping people and doing it in ways that are creative and fun. So using golf to raise some funding and also more or less bring awareness, was really a great way to do it. And I've known the founder of Patriot Outreach almost since I've started this business. He invited us to his tournament. I got involved, just kind of on the side, and then that spurred the idea of why don't we just throw our own event? Because JT and I like events. We're pretty damn good at running events. I'm just gonna put that out there.
So we're gonna talk about that after this because I'm hosting my tournament on August 9th. So it's nice to network. One, the game of golf, to help grow the game of golf. Mm-hmm. But the mission that I'm trying to do, you guys are also doing that with your tournament.
Right.
And so golf and all of that together, melting together, if you want to call that, is good for all of it. For the game and for getting awareness out there. So that's what this mission is about.
Yeah.
With me using the good of social media through YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, just trying to get my mission out there as well as bring attention to people like you and JT with your business. Yeah. So if you guys live in the Kansas City area, the link will be below. Check out their website. Today we're going to do a swing analysis of my swing. I haven't had a lesson in like 3 years, so I'm looking forward to this.
Awesome.
So hopefully this will get me going in the right direction.
And then we're going to get more swing analysis coming from those people, right?
Yeah, so you guys are going to analyze it too, but hopefully what you
Yeah.
look at mine,
Yeah.
this is about helping
Yeah.
others as well, whether
Yeah.
it's with their golf swing, because we're growing the game.
There's a greater cause here.
There's a greater cause.
Yeah. Yeah. The innocent part of this is analyzing Steve's swing, and maybe I'll give him a few constructive criticisms.
Well, I hope you do. I'm looking forward to it, so I'm glad to be here.
Perfect.
All right, we'll get right into this swing analysis.
Awesome.
Thanks for
Let's do
being
it.
here.
Let's do it.
Watching.
Yeah. Now, for my recording purposes, remember to hit off of that soft turf.
You
there,
bet.
if you don't mind. Yep.
So right in this area?
Yep,
or-
that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, anywhere there is fine. Well, I mean, being self-taught, buddy, you're not that unique compared to most people. Really, I didn't have any coaching for 9 or 10 years in
Okay.
golf. I was all self-taught practically until I was 20 years old. I always joke I didn't get any real coaching until I actually finally started playing real competitive golf.
Well, and I was reluctant to get fit and everything just because, the cost of it.
Oh, absolutely.
But now that I've gotten fit out at Golf MD,
Yeah. Mike's great, by the way.
that's changed. Yeah, he is. That's changed my game as far as off the tee. My driver, I keep it in play more.
Oh yeah, absolutely. He's a phenomenal fitter. We do recommend a lot of people to him. We send a lot of people to him. We're a specialty fitter for Mizuno. I don't know if you're aware of that, but
Okay, yeah,
we're on
logo
staff
there.
with Mizuno, so we do a lot of fitting for Mizuno. We're actually pretty large scale business for being a small studio and doing it on the side. Actually, this year, ironically, we doubled our business with Mizuno, and I think that was just a byproduct of COVID and everything going on. But so Mike's great. He actually he supports our event always. He brings a team up, and we appreciate that a lot too. And he's just a good friend of ours. Yup. Nice.
All right, that's probably enough, isn't it?
Yeah. So hit just a couple more. I'm gonna record a few, and then we're gonna switch to 7-iron.
Okay.
And to be clear, there's no science behind exactly what clubs we're hitting, but we kind of want to cover the range of the bag, right?
Okay.
We want to just cover everything. Thanks, Steve, for coming in for a swing analysis today. But we're going through a series of different swings here. I've got a wedge, I've got a 7-iron, I've got a driver. Had you hit a bunch of different shots? Definitely deleted a few, and that doesn't necessarily mean good or bad shots.
Okay.
We're just trying to filter, to what we see as the average.
Okay.
One thing that people are often surprised by is that their swing mechanics don't often change that much shot by shot, right? And so what I mean by that is your timing does change for sure, but your tendencies as a player, they stay pretty consistent.
Okay.
Unless you start forcefully dismantling those things, right? So whatever kind of swing plane you have, whatever kind of posture you have, all those base fundamentals, they stay pretty consistent club by club. And so in a swing analysis, our main goal is to just establish some fundamental ground rules, so to speak. And so it's easy to put a tour pro up and compare to perfection, which is obviously a little bit ridiculous. But it gives us an idea of what those textbook pieces are looking for.
Right.
Big thing, important to do, you see this whole run of videos here, there's thousands of tour pros out there. A lot of them have these unique little movements they make in their swing. Look for the commonalities, not the differences.
Okay.
That's super important.
I agree.
Golf Channel and a lot of forms of media like to highlight the top positions and, hey, look, we got 10 players that are in different positions at the top, which means you can swing or swing and get there however you want to, and there's a little bit of lacking of truth in that, to be honest.
Okay.
So it's a lot because how you get to the ball doesn't actually really change. When you look at pro to pro, efficiency to the golf ball is kind of the key there. Which brings up a point. Anytime we're working on a golf swing, we're working on the moment of impact. Okay, so what we mainly care about more than anything is the player repeatable from basically this point here through that point there, right? Any good coach is going to be working on
about that far. Okay.
Exactly, and the purpose for that's kind of obvious. That's the only point in the swing where you're hitting a golf ball, right? So yes, what you do elsewhere affects that, but our goal is to be repeatable here. That does mean if you have a player that makes kind of a unique movement or does something certainly that's kind of unique, as long as it doesn't affect what they do through impact, we're usually pretty okay with it. in any swing analysis, we're going to start at setup. Setup is all encompassing, so that means posture, alignment, general things like that. Things that you would look at as very beginner level or basic.
Okay.
Not basic, right? And that's because posture and alignment alone affect a lot of your golf swing, right?
Definitely.
And if you didn't know that, draws and fades are half created by setup.
I agree.
Right? Grip changes, alignment changes, and posture affects those things too. So that's half where your ball flight comes from. And so, like in your case, for example, what are some of the differences you see between these setup positions if we're going to be a bit unfair?
I'd say the spine angle's a little bit.
For sure.
I can see my toe is up,
Toes up.
so my hands might be a little too low.
Problem with, like, as the player, even if it was an experienced instructor, the problem is you start to list 5, 6, 7 different things that you see, and then you're like, where do I start?
Right.
And there's that lack of process thing that we're always criticizing.
Okay.
So it's a matter of how you find the core value. Generally, that's where you get an instructor, you get some good video, and you can start to understand what's important. So you mentioned the toe of the club, the hands being low, the distance maybe being a little different. What I'm looking at is literally the core value, which is where's your spine.
Okay.
And not just how perfect your posture is, but is it set properly to the ball? Because that's kind of the be-all and all.
Oh, I agree.
But in this case, what we're basically saying is there could be some improvement in spine angle, and we're not saying trying to make for perfect posture. Perfect posture would essentially be canceling or ridding yourself of that gap right there.
Okay.
That means you would be like a washboard, right? Now, why are we not worried about perfect? Well, we don't want tension, right? We don't want you to be so hyperextended that you're absolutely tense in the setup.
Right.
But that lends itself to how you swing the club, believe it or not. So the posture issue that you're seeing right here, right? So this posture issue, and then we're going to talk a little bit about alignment, actually affects how you swing the club, okay? Now, in layman's terms, bad posture leads to steeper golf swings. Okay, so if you have a lot of hunch this way, the trend, doesn't mean for everybody, but the trend is with a lot of hunch, you tend to lift the club more up, right? You are a vertical golfer.
Yes.
And you do have kind of a forward lean in your downswing. So that is a big indicator there where that starts, okay? So no way are we saying posture fixes alone will completely fix your whole golf swing, but it's a starting point.
But that's the starting point. Yes, I agree.
Yeah. So in that case, once we go through that, we will go through a posture process here actually in a little bit. We're going to give you a better set of routine to clean this up.
Okay.
But first I want to just finish describing the swing.
Okay, perfect.
So the next part of the discussion is then more or less swing mechanics. Once you get past setup, that whole process, obviously then we're talking about the actual motion. And there's probably some terms here that you're familiar with, like swing plane.
Right.
Swing plane
Right.
before, right? The point here is that you've got a general guideline, and we want to be parallel or following that guideline as much as possible.
Okay, and you're drawing this through the shoulder?
Exactly.
Okay.
So the nice thing about that is it's consistent regardless of what club you're using. So
Okay.
if it's a wedge or a driver, it's still ball through shoulder.
Okay.
The point here is not to tear yourself down for small nuance issues, right?
Okay.
When you're looking at most tour players, with the exception of your Jim Furyks and nowadays your Matt Wolfs and guys that have more unique movements, there's still a fraction, there's still a smaller amount of players out there that have very unique movements. I mean, most of them look more like Roy McIlroy or Justin Thomas than they do, Matt Wolf.
But like you said earlier,
Yeah.
it's the Wolves and the Furyks right there. Just
Yeah, and that's super important to mention that is not in any way throwing shade at those.
No, definitely.
Those guys have an ability athletically to make perfect movements just as much as any other player.
Right.
It doesn't even really hurt them, right? You don't even know it's a problem.
Right.
As long as they're at impact, as I said before, that's all that matters.
Yeah.
So, but why do you think most people try to swing on plane? Why do most tour players follow that plane? It's just simpler.
I agree.
Would you rather make one move or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 moves? That's the whole premise.
Okay.
So in this case, you can be very critical of it. We generally, at least starting here at Imperial, we aren't super critical of perfect backswings. Now, you got to, like you said, with your kids, you need to be generally correct.
Right.
You got to avoid big swing plane movements, right? Big shifts. But if the player is close, we're generally pretty happy. To start out, for instance, you'll notice you're a little bit more to the inside than Mr. Horschel here. This is our sample. But to an amount that we're largely concerned about? Not necessarily. However, one thing you'll notice with unique golf swings, especially on tour, rarely, if ever, do you see an inside move first, and then an upward move, and then an over the top move.
Right.
You're never going to see
You
that.
rarely see that.
The unique swings are steep, out, up, and then back to the inside.
Right.
So it's an opposite loop. So as much as we're not genuinely worried about this, we'll want to keep an eye on it, right? So the fact that it is a little bit more to the inside. That obviously leads to how you then transition, and transition's really more how you hinge the club. Again, some subtle differences here, but noticeable. Look at how the club is very vertical at this point.
Yes.
Right? So, not bad in any way, but maybe not ideal, because you'd like to see that club kind of stay a little more in a slot position there. But again, we're not tearing apart those details, we're just acknowledging them. As you finish the backswing, the goal here is to just stay within reason, somewhat close to that swing plane. But more importantly, it's about how you transition. So if I were to say that this is textbook and this is all you can do, then again, those Matt Wolfs and Jim Ferricks are going to destroy my argument in 5 seconds.
But for the general people that you work with, and this is what, especially for me, we're looking at, it applies to me.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And it's kind of a silly thing where if a person's out of position, we're going to work to get them into a better one, not a more unique one.
Right.
That would be ludicrous.
I mean, if those unique guys came into you, you would be looking at, like you said earlier, is there how they get back to impact properly. But this is what we're working with, so you got to compare it to.
And then the focus changes, and we find that hard to argue with, by the way.
Okay.
So it's like if a player's repeating and are efficient, you can prove that on video, by the way.
Right.
What else is there to talk about? You know, it's hard to want to break that player down because if they're efficient, meaning it can be sustained, if they're doing the right things, we don't want to tear it apart. In this case, really, it all comes down to transition, right? And the transition at the top, as you probably know, is a crucial moment in a golf swing.
Yes,
it
kind of steep land there.
It determines how you go into the ball. But yet, we saw this coming from your posture.
Yes.
We saw this coming from your setup. And so, this isn't, the best way to describe this is it's well managed. Well managed.
Yeah.
It might feel like a bad
Luckily,
compliment.
well, it comes down to just, decent enough hand-eye coordination
Very
to
good.
manage it.
Oh, absolutely. You're a hell of a golfer, by the way.
Well,
I mean,
I try.
we can work around slight imperfections like this, and when you have a short game like you do, with putting, you can still keep that score close to par.
Right.
Heck of a player.
So I want to get it to where my short game with putting becomes I'm shooting under par or.
Yeah, I think for you, the greater goal with your full swing is you're not looking for perfection. That maybe isn't realistic, but could you find a swing that's just a little more repeatable and you have to worry about a little bit less?
Exactly.
So that you can focus a little more on scoring.
Well, having you said that, I do know that, like yesterday when I played, I'm over the ball thinking, okay, I'm just not feeling comfortable here. And I'm sure a lot of people out there feel the same way. And that's what we're trying to change here.
Even pros at moments, obviously.
Right.
If you don't believe that, watch them step off half the time.
Exactly. And there's where I think I don't sometimes. A lot of times, I said that on my channel before. I get the process. So I grabbed my camera after I hit the shot. I said, I should have stepped away. I didn't feel comfortable. So,
by the way, that's usually not staged.
Yeah, it's not staged.
So, but no, you're absolutely right. That's paying attention to your own gut instincts and your own process, which nobody can give you. You got to do a better job of cultivating those processes, right? But for here today, we're concerned about how you use the club and mechanically what happens with that. So yes, you come in a little steep.
And this is my wedge, or
this is your mid iron.
Okay,
Straight to mid iron, just because it's the most average representation where you're at. No extremes, right? So the wedge or driver, you see the extremes. So in this case, yes, you're a little bit steep, and that's where we predicted those misses we were talking about earlier. We're talking about pulls and pull hooks, and it's very visible in your swing.
Yep.
Yet equally, you're split seconds away from being a slicer of the golf ball. Now, generally speaking, steep swings that have been worked on and cultivated stop slicing the ball eventually.
Yeah.
Just surprising, because steep swing with a club face is a late movement when you think about it, right?
Correct.
So eventually you get tired of that late movement, and the golfer's like, well, screw this, I'm going to start turning the club face over, and you learn how to do that with grip changes and other adjustments.
Yeah, helped me a lot.
Yeah, so there's a little bit of band-aiding there. Right, which we all compensate a little bit, and our goal is to minimize that. So in this case, it's all basically a byproduct of timing, right? So your impact position is just, well, are you late, early, or on time? with your clubs. So you know you're going to swing a little steep, it's just a matter of how well will you time this movement. And the difference there is when you watch the average pro come through, or average advanced player, you're going to see the club move on a little different plane there. Right? See how it's kind of out to the ball instead of across the ball.
Exactly.
Left. And you really see that in how you finish. Because your club's actually even left of the swing plane already.
Already, yeah.
That gives you an idea what your greater plane is there. Now, to be clear, for all your fans out there, Steve has a wonderful swing plane in general. And it's very singular for the most part. You don't make any big movements.
Okay.
Other than the fact that you're a little inside, up, and then over. So technically you can call it two swing planes. But it's a very quiet movement. You manage it very well. So small tweaks are going to do a lot with this swing.
Okay.
So this isn't a swing where we're like, hey, let's relearn the whole transition and the whole motion. This is a swing where we're like, let's look at setup, posture, alignment, see what we can do with those things. Well, with video and a good process, it's not hard. So
I like the process.
Last but not least, I'm going to show you a face-on view, if you don't mind, of this same golf swing. It's the exact same golf swing. And then just for fun, we'll do a quick review of the driver's swing.
Okay.
We'll just kind of go through it and show you how it's very similar. The last big thing to understand about the golf swing is efficiency shows through with a one-word term called lag. Right? You ever heard that term lag?
Most definitely.
Right. So most of us have worked on this at some point. You put a towel on the ground, you put a tee in front of the ball.
I do it to the high school kids, and they hate it.
Yeah, and it begs the question, like, how effective are those practices when there's a greater fundamental problem? Right. This is important for you to understand, because if your swing plane's a little off, or your body movement's not adequate, you can't have lag in a golf swing that doesn't or can't sustain.
I agree.
So don't forget that. So
it's obvious.
Exactly. So lag is not generally something you can will, right? Can you hit a lower flight shot and try to encourage it? Sure. Yeah. But if your swing's not good enough to sustain it, it's going to show, and the way it shows is a term we call casting. Right. Right. And thankfully for you, it's very light. So although you do cast the club, it's nothing major.
It used to be a lot worse, John.
I can imagine.
Years ago, before I started getting lessons, it used to be a lot worse.
Yeah, but overall, you gotta pat yourself with the work you've done with this, right? You've fixed a lot of these problems. It's pretty subtle, and you're not looking for major changes here either. I mean, the ideal textbook position is literally only about that much better than where you are. So that's great news for you, because it tells you that if you make these subtle little changes, you might get that automatically on your own. Okay. You may not even need to work on it. No towel drills, tee drills for you. But so the goal here then is, can we go back to setup and establish a process? This analysis is a lot of information, right? Packed into a small amount of time. But we want the player to at least better understand their swing, so they know what the heck they're getting themselves into when they start to work on it. Right. Does that make sense?
Makes perfect sense.
Okay. So we were going to quickly review the driver here. It's good to see how your issues actually remain consistent through all of your swings. One could argue that your driver posture is a little bit better.
I was thinking that when I first saw that.
And it's partly because it's a longer club and it pushes you away from the ball and kind of forces the issue. So that's a good thing to see. But you would also be able to notice that your shoulders tend to be a little more open with driver, which they do for all of us, by the way. Yeah, so that's literally just a factor of ball position. So when you got a long club and it's forward in the stance, look at how your shoulders naturally open up and are tweaked, right? So in that case, what does it mean for your swing plane, do you think, if your shoulders are more open?
Well, I think open, you're not able to come.
It's harder
from the inside as much.
We're not saying impossible. It's harder. Yeah. So like in this case, should it be a different swing plane? Not hopefully by much, but you're still going to struggle with that same steepness, right? And because we love to make completely unfair comparisons, so this is a good way to understand the difference in general club position coming into downswing. So watch the club drop into down. Again, we're talking generalities. But if you look at where that is in reference to his baseline swing plane, quite a dramatic difference.
Exactly. Yeah.
It turns out he's pretty darn flexible and pretty athletic, though. So that's not exactly a fair comparison.
No, it's not. Me almost 50 years old, JT.
Yeah.
Me almost 50, losing flexibility.
Yeah.
But
and And when we do this, keep in mind, it's a little comical. We realize that most people can't relate to, to these body positions. That's not the point. It's to show you general club movement. Okay?
And I think most people seeing this are going to have similar movements that I have, so hopefully this helps them.
So, but once again, it's kind of the same story, isn't it? I mean, the
Yes.
driver comes through in the same manner. It's a little bit steep. You can even see the club head there. It does release a little bit outside of the plane. It doesn't mean you're going to hit a bad shot. It just means you're going to battle some of those misses that we talked about earlier. So, same breakdown, same problems. At this point, do you have any questions about how all this works?
No, perfect.
Was anything surprising to you, or are these all things?
No, so when I edit my videos, I see this, and I can see that I'm still, you know, so this is perfect to have a professional's eyes, break it down, and then we'll see the adjustments he makes when you're coming forward.
Exactly. The video really is just accountability, right?
Right.
And it's the use of it needs to be moderated. Videotaping your swing for 2-hour range sessions. That wouldn't be healthy, right? But to have these half-hour, and that's how we do lessons in here, we put these half-hour sessions aside once a week or once every 2 weeks.
Okay.
That's a nice balance for what your practice routine should be out there.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah.
All right, so at this point, we're going to do some adjustments now. So we're going to work on some adjustments with Steve. We're going to get him back live on camera on the mat here. And we're going to make some tweaks and see what those tweaks lead to.
Okay.
They're going to be small first. Not swing changes, but setup changes.
Okay, what club do you want me to start with?
Let's start with a 7-iron.
Okay, 7-iron it is.
Middle club.
All right, 7-iron.
All right, so what we'll do here is we'll make a couple of adjustments, a couple of changes. I'm going to make some of my own recordings in a minute once we make those changes. And then when we're done, we'll do a little quick comparison.
Okay.
Kind of a before and after, as we love to do. Let's do some practice swings first. Let's get rid of the ball just for a moment. And we're going to talk about base position. So go ahead and go through your normal setup routine and just kind of hold still, you know, in your typical average setup routine. All right, so we talked about a couple things with body positioning. So posture being one of them. We're not interested in perfecting this, but maybe revising it a little bit.
Okay.
And then alignment being another. So alignment referring to where your shoulders are left or right. Now, this is much harder to track for the golfer than they often realize.
Right.
Right? It's real easy for you to be set up 10 degrees open and not know it, for example.
Okay.
Right? In your case, you tend to be a touch open. So the way that you improve posture, go ahead and get back down in position. As long as you have a good enough spine angle for this, it shouldn't be too difficult. In other words, if you increase bend a little bit here, so go ahead and bend further down towards the ball just for a moment, this is going to feel too low. Right? The way that you gain back that height is up here. Okay, so don't change this angle. Go ahead and adjust your spine. That's exactly right. Now, if you were really being strict on that and how perfect you are on that, you could get washboard flat here.
Right.
But it obviously creates some tension, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
You probably feel it right here mostly.
Yeah.
Middle back.
Yeah. Right there.
The last part to this, keep in mind I'm just showing you the positions now. I'm going to give you a process in a little bit.
Okay.
So you corrected this. You've got that little bit of activation there. And then finally, we're going to take a look at this. And all we're looking for with this is just a very subtle, like, left shoulder to be a touch in front.
Okay.
We might even add a tiny bit of load.
Okay. I like that.
A little bit of favor. Now,
It feels good.
yeah, now you're probably mostly used to this with like clubs like driver, right?
Right.
You probably even add more spine tilt with driver.
Right.
But maybe something you hadn't done with an iron. So go ahead and take a few swings just from those position changes and see what happens. Okay. Good. So go ahead and make sure you reset each time to where you're reactivating that upper half. You add that little bit of left shoulder tilt there. Yep. And then you fire. Okay, one more time.
Feels good.
Yep, but it gives you a more of a soft position move. So again, a little bit more active, a little bit of load. Go ahead and fire.
There we go.
Yep, that's good. Yep. Okay, so now let's take a look at this. You want to make sure that this leads to the improvement that we're looking for. This is not about perfect posture. It's not about even perfect alignment. It's about making a better motion, right?
And it felt better.
Yeah, okay. So what you're doing here, take a little bit of your own knowledge of what you know about draw stance versus fade stance.
Okay.
For instance, if you're trying to intentionally hit a draw, what do you do different in your setup or your swing to do that?
Well, for me, I tend to, you close the stance a little more.
Bingo.
And then
right?
you're swinging along that plane, that alignment that you set up. and swinging out.
Can you say that one more time? That's really important.
So the stance, I close it,
Yeah.
and then you swing along that alignment that you
Part
just,
2 there is the most
Yeah.
important. So a lot of people know a draw stance is set up closed. Not a lot of people understand that has to reflect your new swing plane now. That's easier said than done, isn't
Right.
it? 'Cause especially if you, this isn't you, but a lot of people miss right.
Right.
You know how difficult it is for them to have that concept of, well, I'm going to close down where I miss normally and swing that way? That seems so wrong.
So to them, they're feeling they're going to miss even further right.
Right, but they just don't maybe fully understand the physics of their golf swing yet.
Okay.
So in your case, these are small tweaks. A little bit of activation up here, a little bit of alignment adjustment there, right? And the goal is to have this lead to a swing plane change, for sure. So if it doesn't right away, we might have to make some further adjustment.
Okay.
Mainly, though, what we care about is how you now transition. Okay, so how does the swing plane look right now?
It's still similar to what.
Similar. So it's like, okay, we need to do a better job of maintaining those positions, right?
Okay. I agree.
So setup is one thing. Now it's like, all right, how do we translate that into an actually better transition and better motion? So let's take a look at that.
Okay.
Okay. This is where you can get into a lot of drills and feels that are pretty similar across, from tour players down to beginners. There's things that you'll see. I'm sure you've seen a tour pro before hit golf balls where their caddies will.
Yes.
Do you have any idea why they do this or why this exists?
So they stay behind the ball?
Exactly. So you've got your body set. Go ahead and get in your setup position. Let's do it without a ball one more time, please. Okay, so you've got your little corrections there. Notice how you're loaded after making that adjustment, right?
Right.
Your weight's kind of loaded on your right side. So now the goal would be that you've established this plane with your shoulders. Can you maintain it better?
Okay.
So go ahead and take a slow backswing all the way up to the top. Right, so all I'm doing is holding your head here.
Right.
Why? To keep you from moving up, forward, and then over, like you like to do on a golf swing, right?
Makes sense.
Now, someone else in the past told you this, I think. You were talking about another swing coach that you worked with that
Yes.
helped identify this, right? So that means, go ahead and reset. When you turn to the top, let's do that again. You need a new trigger movement. So hold it right there. Your trigger, potentially, in your normal swing, is that lean forward.
Yes.
Now, whether it's exactly your shoulder or back, we don't really know, but it's just, that's your trigger. Your first trigger, to correct this, needs to be your left hip. So in other words, you drop. Very odd feeling for a player that's used to collapsing over the
Okay.
right? But right now you probably feel really stuck.
Yes, to a point, yeah.
Especially as you get to about right here.
Yes.
It's like, okay, where do I go from here? Right. But you know what that leads to, go ahead and finish your swing, is a more actually extended inside out motion.
Right.
So it turns out stuck actually leads to freedom. Right? So the impact is all we really care about. So let's see that again.
Okay.
Okay?
So, without a ball?
Yeah, just to get the feel again. So make your small corrections. Go ahead and slowly rotate to the top. Hold still. Good. Your new trigger is now to drop. Hold right there. And then go ahead and fire. Good. Okay. So let's do that again. And with a more simpler version of it, I'm just going to hold a stick on your head here. I want you to follow the same rules. So again, turn to the top. Nice coil. Hold. And fire. Good. One more time. Let's do it all in one smooth motion this time, if you don't mind. Okay. So again, just make your corrections. Turn to the top. Yep. And fire. Good. Okay. Let's take a look at that. All right. So now we're getting into the real nitty-gritty of the swing. Obviously, we're beyond just little setup tweaks. We're getting into how does this translate into an actual motion. Well, now it's about maintaining. When I hold that alignment stick on your head, the goal there is to help you maintain the body position we set up, right?
Right.
Meaning you've got that little tilt, you have that little setup adjustment. I don't want you to just come right out of it.
Right.
I want you to stay in it. What this translates to is a very different bouncing play.
Yeah. Very different.
Very different. So now it becomes a swing plane that is far more to the inside without even trying, because you're just managing body position. And I think the important point to make here is that we didn't really ever touch the club, did we?
No.
It was all about core and what the body is doing. Now, we're not saying you never will. We're not saying there won't be any fine-tuning with the club. But if the majority of work that you're doing is with the golf club, you're probably doing it wrong.
Right.
You got to look at how your body's moving. His body controls that. So look at the swing plane discrepancy between those, right? And now when the club goes through, what direction is it going to release?
Yep. Love it.
Inside out, down the swing plane, ta-da, right? There you go. And then versus over the top, across the plane, so on and so forth.
Okay.
Now this will really affect your longer clubs more. So the other thing that's important about swing plane to understand is we get away with a lot with a wedge.
Definitely.
And they there. But when you get driver out, driver is where you start to see your big misses, extra side spin, right? All your problems really start to show through. So keep that in mind that really immediately the top half of your bag is going to be most affected by this,
Okay.
right? Not the bottom half being the wedges and short irons. Okay? So, process. Go ahead and set yourself up again. We're going to put this into a routine now.
Okay.
Okay, now it's always helpful to use support visuals, so to speak. You can always put alignment sticks down. You do this with your own players.
Right.
That earlier. So in this case, an old driver shaft. Why not?
Okay.
So, but what we're representing with this is just a visual directional change, meaning that stick is not straight. It's actually a little bit to the right.
Right.
So that gives you that feel for, okay, I do want to have that club releasing more out to the right.
Okay.
Right field tightness. I want you to follow my lead on this, so let's
Okay.
go ahead and step off one more time. And what I want you to make sure of is that all of your setup routines, once you grip the club, start by setting the club on the ball. Okay? Because in that step right there, what you should be doing is gauging distance, hopefully starting to set your posture. It doesn't need to be perfect in this step, but you're starting to set it, mainly distance. Then once that's set, now go ahead and bring in your feet, start setting your stance, and then you can fine tune and go through your alignment with feet, hips, and finally shoulders. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So that's how you put it into a process.
I like that.
So one more time, it's club first, body second, feet third, finalize alignment, go ahead and pull the trigger.
Ready?
Yep, go for it, take a swing. So that's how that should go. Key thing here is, whatever you're working on, put it into a process.
I like it.
Put it into a routine, let's take a few more swings and then we'll hit a couple shots.
Okay.
Okay? So club first, got that, right?
Yep.
Body second, that's where you get your rough alignment, feet third, finish it off, go ahead and pull the trigger.
I like the load to the right a little bit. That's
Yeah.
going to give me a better feel, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. It's actually a pretty athletic feel.
It is.
It's pretty. You'll also see, even ourselves, sometimes other players, doing this to a slight extreme to understand the swing sequence.
Okay.
So don't be afraid to sometimes take it a little too far to understand this is the path I want.
Okay.
We'll dial it back from there, right? It's not a perfect process, is it? Golf is never like, I go to my destination and I'm done.
Right.
It's a lot of like experimentation. So don't be afraid to slightly overdo it and learn a little bit more about how that affects your swing.
Okay.
So go ahead and hit a few shots, right?
All right, let's see. When we put this pill down.
That's right. So now the goal immediately, this might seem odd to a lot of golfers, you might start the ball a little bit more to the right of your target line. So don't be warned or worried about that.
Okay.
You're used to starting the ball more down target line, you're probably left of target line, right? Because you tend to smother it.
Yes.
So it's like, if you get some more shots that are a little bit right at target, feeling like pushes, that's a good start. So yeah, I mean, at this point, it's just about small tweaks to get rid of that last little bit of left movement with you, right?
Yes.
So now just go through your process, club first, body second, feet third, finish the alignment, and be okay with starting that ball a little right at target. Go ahead and fire off a few here. Okay, immediate first golf shot. We always expect this, chunky.
Yep.
Why? Because you just changed your swing center a little bit. So
That's exactly what I tell my high school kids, so
don't be forewarned by that, right? It's a normal part of the process. So hit a few more shots. That'll clean up as you go. Same thing. Trust that process. Be okay with starting the ball a little to the right of target.
Whoa, JT, watch out!
Cut. We're cutting that one. So remember, when you go through that process and set that club, that's where you gauge distance. Give yourself plenty of space. There you go. That was a much better adjustment.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah,
It
you
feels
clear your
good.
distance, make your little bit of shoulder alignment tweak, and you're good to swing the club.
Oh,
That was better.
that felt
It was
good.
good. So,
I think I was just
hey, for
crowding
fun,
the ball too
people-
much?
People don't like to focus on shanks, right? Because they're crack a golf shot.
Especially when you about killed JT here.
The forbidden word. We should put this in the video. Shanks are good feedback because it's immediate.
Yep.
Right? Shanks are like, something was clearly wrong.
Exactly.
Right? And so, in your case there, you know that you have a steep swing, into, right? Which means if you slightly crowd the ball, at any moment you're at risk of a shank.
Okay.
You may not do it often, but you're at risk, right? So that adjustment you just made there, when you went back through your process, you realized if I set the club first, I'm coming in too close to the ball.
Right.
And then you went like this.
Mm-hmm. And that felt so much better as soon as I did it.
Exactly. And the only way you're going to catch that is in a process.
Okay. I like
If
it.
you don't have a routine, there's no consistency there, you're not going to pick up on those things.
Okay.
Make sense?
It does. So I guess for me, when I was going through the process early on before we put the ball down, because when the ball's down there, it's a totally different feel.
100%.
Because you have to hit it. But
repercussions.
So that was good when you made the comment, make the adjustment. So I backed away from it.
Yeah.
Give yourself room is what you said.
Yeah, and obviously as we get to know a golfer better, we're trying to refrain from always intervening.
Okay.
We want that player to kind of find their own adjustments as much as possible, but use your misses. So there, in that case, it's like, go back to that setup. What
I was thinking
right there.
No, what I was thinking was when I played recently, I can remember the rounds, is when I come into my setup,
you're always close.
I felt like I needed to get closer.
Because guess what?
The spine angle was, but now I understand with the process and the adjustments you make, I stand a little, I can still be further from the ball, but as long as I have a good spine.
Well, there's a flip there.
Okay.
It makes a ton of sense. You tended to be closer to the ball, meaning weight and heels, with bad posture. Those live together.
Yeah.
So when you recorrect and you get the spine in the right position, naturally you back your feet away now, weight's more on the balls of the feet, and you got plenty of room to create rotation.
All right.
You see how they work together?
Let's do that.
So you give yourself space to improve your posture. Hips are active, shoulders are flat. Weight should be on the balls of the feet. That's how you gauge your distance. Make your adjustments and go. Beautiful.
That feels so much better.
So the other thing that's going to come from this adjustment is he's going to have a better sense of rhythm.
And my rhythm felt better.
Through practice. Obviously, it didn't happen in 5 golf people. But through practice, he's going to find a more natural sense of rhythm. Because instead of being too close and steep and trying to fight with his hands all the time, he's going to start to find a little bit more freedom of motion, and then you're going to see this improvement in just repeatability and overall rhythm.
Right. I mean, to the viewers out there, that felt freer. Yeah. Hopefully it will show when we do the analysis. And
but to be fair, you don't learn without hitting some bad shots.
Right.
So don't cut that out.
No, I'm not. It's not. It's staying in.
To know that part of a process is failure. If you want to get better, there's going to be some failure.
It's just like in life and going through this mission with PTSD. I had failures for a long time before I figured it out. So
and not to
same
delve,
thing with golf.
We don't want to waste too much time delving into that, but I did talk about mental process with you.
Yes.
That's where we get into more or less neutral thinking discussions and how to actually get a person more in the moment with every single shot. When you start to get affected by emotion too much in this game, it goes bad quick.
Well, I'm glad you said that because that was part of my problem for years with this game.
Yeah.
But I was going through some things.
Sure.
You talking about that with where I'm at now, it will help me. I got a process. I love that. I love what you and JT have there going, and I'll use that.
We want a person to think clear and logically.
Okay.
Be in the moment, focused on what they're trying to do. And that's the whole point of the process is it's not just better physically, it's that you're better mentally.
Right.
You just double bogeyed the last hole, and it's like, well, time to reset. New process, right?
Right.
You just birdied the last 3. Time to reset, new process. You can't get wrapped up in the emotions of past and future.
Okay, I like it.
Make sense?
Yep, perfect sense.
Any questions?
No.
All right. The last thing to keep in mind here is that your swing plane will transform over time, right? So you don't generally go from a steep swinger to a flat swinger in one practice session, but you will start to notice the club movements do get better pretty immediately.
Yes.
So it's always powerful when you can see a player hitting a golf ball with a better club position. Already that's lower. Now, of course, we're not in the Rory McIlroy driver position, but that wasn't a fair comparison.
No, but
that's not a fair comparison for driver, let alone iron. But But if you compare this back to even that iron swing we were looking at before, we're starting to see some serious similarity now. Club's just still a little bit higher than his, but not quite much. So you're not riding that swing plane like a dang teeter-totter anymore.
Right, and then having to flip at it with the hands.
It's a nail-biting place to be. So you're like, oh geez, am I going to make the right movement?
Right.
You've created some space, you have some room to release the ball. All that we found today, and how we elaborated on that, was that you could do some things at setup to start encouraging that improvement. How simple is that?
Well, it is simple, and the adjustments we've made are simple.
Yeah.
But you need a professional's eyes to help you, because I've been trying to figure it out on my own, watching my videos.
Yeah.
Go out and play bad one round and then play good one round, but what was I doing right? Well, it was just timing, like we talked about.
I think that's the key here, is just always being open to new processes and being open to change. That doesn't mean you always need to change something. It just means that you want to be prepared for that, be okay with that. So, and then last but not least, remember how you were exiting the swing plane?
Yeah.
Look at that.
Yeah, but it was more that way.
So our goal with Steve is to just literally inch our way back to center.
Okay.
We're not making dramatic swing changes, are we?
No.
You tend to be a puller and a pull hooker of the ball at times, and we just want to inch you this way and just get that ball starting on a little bit better line, and maybe introduce some misses that are more like small pushes or small push draws.
Okay. It makes sense, and back to the fundamentals, and that's what I needed was your
This
eye.
works well for you too, because you're already a draw player. You're used to seeing the ball turn over.
Correct.
So it's like, would you rather start at 10 yards left and it turns 5 more? Or would you rather start at 5 yards right and it turns 10 yards back?
Okay.
See what I mean?
Yes.
It's about narrowing variance. That's
Okay.
cool.
Love it.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So, and then this video will actually get emailed to you. So we share these via Dropbox or bring in a flash drive if they want to do that.
Okay.
I'll share this with you, and then you can review it, down the road, plug it into your practice routine. Whenever we do programs, this is how all of our lessons go. We do record the sessions so people have continued feedback. Our joke is they have no way to argue with us then. So
That's true.
it's constant.
That's what's
feedback.
good about it.
Yeah, so we want to be upfront and transparent with that. So everything from here is process based. With most people, we work with them either bi-weekly, once per week, or twice per week. Just kind of depends on what you need and what you want.
Okay.
Go from there. So
I like it.
Yeah.
I'm glad we were able to collaborate on this and, one, help my game, but share to my viewers as my channel grows and as my Instagram grows. I'm going to just share how to grow the game of golf. We have a connection, especially JT and I, with issues we've gone through. So it was a pleasure meeting you today. Thanks for the help. And check out Imperial Golf. The link will be below. For their website, and
hopefully we'll be collaborating more soon together.
Yeah, I hope
we can
so.
Help you with the tournament.
Yeah, I want to have a team in your tournament. I hope you guys will come over to mine.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
Thanks for tuning in, everyone. And I always like to close my videos out with just a little talk about being self-aware of what's going through your mind, because that is how I've dealt with the things I've gone through. Because the stresses build up and you feel it just pushing on you. If you can be self-aware of it, you're going to be better off. So thanks for watching. Love you all.